That sounds like a plan.
And vegetarian.
How are you, sir? How are you?
Oh yeah, no. You need to upgrade. You need an upgrade there in the gear. You need an upgrade on the gear there. Mind your way.
Are we getting on, Igor?
Oh yeah, and you're going to jump there, yeah.
I think it's interagency. Yeah, sorry, it's just the interagency for now and then we'll have a workshop. Sorry, just 2 seconds.
You're going to have to stand on the top.
Sorry, folks, it was just a bit wide for me. Could I have it there? Not you stay there. You're fine there. Back here.
The white member, I'm the white here. I take no offense.
No, come up here though. You mentioned
I'm not going up there. I'm not.
Down there as well. You said it, so you take the down there for me. Just, yeah. Try not to fall off. One little flash, okay? Brilliant, thank you.
Don't lose the time, John. Always want to do it. Good afternoon, how are you? You're more than welcome.
Why not, sir? Okay, folks, everyone looking at the camera, please. Everyone looking here.
Before you're not covered by insurance.
I just said that to him.
Lights everywhere. Everyone looking at the lens, please. Look. One more. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jerry, how are you?
Well, sir.
Is it all done? Is that done?
Yeah.
I'm saying like this. Now are you going to put these two here?
I do that. Okay, folks, we're just going to go through the slideshow just for a moment as we go back inside.
Thanks, Sean.
The atrium is this way, is it? That's it, yeah.
I want to let you in there first.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Perfect.
problem. Just if you're having a private conversation, it could go over YouTube.
Very quickly, I just ask you to take your seats and Cork LGBT Awareness Week 2023. And you're all very welcome to, and if this is the first time we've seen some of you, you're really welcome. Before we get going on the proceedings, Sandy, our colleague on the is going to take care of our duty to keep you by doing the safety announcements.
Apologies for the microphone. Yeah, I'm Sandy McGurty. I'm the Social Inclusion Officer within the community team of Cork City Council, and on behalf of the community team, sure you know, I'd like to welcome you all here to the atrium of Cork City Council. It's great to see such a big crowd here. Announcements, in the event of an alarm or a fire, you'll see there's fire escapes inside of the room. So you can just walk and gather outside. And also, just lastly, if you could put your phones on silent during the speeches. So that's it from me. Thanks, Siobhan.
I think, depending where you put the microphone, you get sound or not. So a lovely way to start the evening is by song, and in the interagency group, for every interagency launch, I think since about 2013, to be joined by Choral Confusion. You can't miss them. They're the brightly coloured, smiley, shiny faces down there, and their sound will reach you up here. But just before we do, in your pack, you'll find a little flyer here, which is for Cork 3 years late show, which will take place on the Saturday the 3rd of June. I should know this. And for the event, the Everyman will be renamed the Everyman, Woman, Non-Binary and Ally place. But we really encourage you, if you've enjoyed, as many of us have, the sounds and the gorgeous harmonies, to go along and support Choral Confusion. They're a wonderful, inclusive community choir, and they've been such good pals and allies to the LGBT interagency here. So with that, I will hand over to Sean, the brightly coloured Director of Music for the evening. So take it away, Sean. Take it away, Choral Confusion.
La
Thanks a million, Cork Confusion, as always. And I just want to acknowledge too Joanna, former director for Cork Confusion, who's with us this evening, and to say welcome back, and hope you enjoy sitting there instead of standing in front of them lot. Enjoy it. Now I'm going to call on Deputy Lord Mayor Councillor John Marr to formally launch our LGBT Awareness Week 2023. John?
Welcome everybody, and again I just think that round of applause for a fantastic song. Just before I kick off, I'd just like to welcome my own City Council colleagues, Mick Nugent, Kenneth Collins, Ted Tynan, Dan Boyle, Senator Jerry Buttermore and Derry Canty, and if I've missed anybody else I apologise. Oh, and Councillor Tony Fitzgerald just got in there at the last minute. To Brigadier General Ryan Clary, Captain Ken Minahan and Inspector James Hallan, you're all very welcome, as are everybody else in the crowd. I'm honoured today to deputise on behalf of the Lord Mayor, Councillor Deirdre Ford, and officially open the 2023 Cork LGBTI Plus Awareness Week. The theme for this year is Together Always, United in Diversity, and we will see the rainbow flag raised by the City for a 9th consecutive year, continuing the strong visual and annually growing display of solidarity with our community. In support of this, the Lord Mayor has said that she welcomes the LGBTI Plus Awareness Week programme of events and encourages all to participate in the Awareness Week. Cork is a city of welcomes, and this is just another opportunity to showcase all that is good and positive about our city and the communities within it. 2023 is significant as it marks 30 years since the decriminalisation of homosexuality in Ireland. In 1993, I was 10. My baby brother was just born, and I remember I had my first job delivering Echoes. As I delivered the Echo as a 10-year-old, I can remember reading the headline that being gay wasn't a crime anymore. However, as I delivered Echo from house to house, I could see that attitudes didn't change, and that gay people were still treated differently and we weren't equal, and that was as a 10-year-old. 2023 is also a year which saw important hate crime legislation being presented to the Dáil. Much has happened since we were here last year, and much has happened over the last 30 years. We have progressed as a society in many positive ways. Rights have been hard won, rights and equality are even harder to retain. And so we must all be watchful and demanding that what is won is retained, and fight harder for LGBTI plus rights and equality which remain outstanding. There is still very much more to do, to challenge and to achieve. This community needs parity. It has a right to equality in the workplace, the general community and to accessing services. The programme of events I launch here today are a measure of the importance of this annual Awareness Week. It affords the opportunity to address issues faced by our community on a daily basis and create awareness with all other communities. We are united in diversity, and what is one for our community is one for all marginalised groups. The keynote address of this year's LGBTI Plus Awareness Week recognises the important milestone and is titled 30 Years Decriminalising Homosexuality to Criminalising Hate Crime, given by LGBTI plus activist and campaigner Arthur Leahy and policy officer with the Irish Council for Civil Liberties, Luna Labuni. I would like to acknowledge the huge impact Arthur has had on our community and fighting for marginalised groups throughout the decades. I'm very lucky that in politics I've come across some great people and they share some great stories. And it was 42 years ago where 20 people lined up for the first Pride in Cork. Arthur was one of the people there, and I remember he turned to a good friend of mine, Kathleen Lynch, and he says, "What are we going to do?" And she responded, "If we don't march, where will the gang coming behind us, who will they follow?" I'm delighted, Arthur, that 42 years ago you began that march with others, because it makes being gay in today's world a small bit easier. 42 years later, I deputised for the Lord Mayor last year, and again, a conversation that Arthur and Kathleen had got back to me. And Arthur said, I don't think they need us anymore, Kathleen. Arthur, I can reassure you that we need you now more than ever, and we need your vision and your courage, and we need you to walk that way with us in every, because we're still not there with the fight for equality. I'm also going to use this opportunity to sincerely thank the library staff for their stalwart stand on LGBTI rights over the last number of months. You are a shining example of Cork City Council and its work to promote equality, social inclusion, and the city of one that is truly a city of welcomes in its access to services. The work that is being done by the Cork LGBTI+ interagency group is recognised locally but also internationally. On behalf of the city, I want to acknowledge and thank the hard-working steering group for their advocacy, commitment and leadership on LGBTI+ inclusion. This year has already been a monumental one for Cork City and the interagency group. Cork City is currently the only Irish member of the Rainbow Cities Network, a global LGBTI+ best practice policy group founded in 2012. The Rainbow Cities Network was founded between the cities of Amsterdam, Barcelona, Cologne and Turin as an informal network designed to share good practice approaches to LGBT issues in the respective cities. The group now contains 48 cities, including Cork, which achieved full membership in June 2020. The Rainbow Cities Network was founded under the EU for Citizens programme to draft a good practice guidelines for cities throughout Europe. Cork was one of 19 European cities participating in this policy working group. In January, an RCN EU for Citizens policy conference was hosted by Cork City in partnership with the LGBTI+ interagency group and Cork City Council, where the city was formally awarded with a certification of membership. The theme of the conference was combating hate crime towards our community and was an amazing opportunity to meet, share best practices with other Rainbow cities. Cork City has also been elected to the board of Rainbow Cities Network, so is now situated within a global framework of LGBTI+ municipalities, all working to create inclusion and welcoming cities. I am extremely proud of Cork City and Cork City Council's leadership as a local authority working with key allies within our community. And I want to thank you all here today that you put in huge effort in making this week happen. The world we live in is changing, and for the first time since I came out 5.5 years ago, this year I was scared, I was anxious, I was overwhelmed at the language that's being used against our community and our allies. While I was overwhelmed, I looked for some motivation and kind of said, what's going to happen next? And I came across a book I was reading, and it's a quote from Barack Obama, and it's something that got me realigned with things. Hope is not blind optimism. It's not ignoring the enormity of the tasks ahead or the roadblocks that stand in our path. It's not sitting on the sidelines or shirking from a fight. Hope is that thing inside us that insists, despite all the evidence to the contrary, that something better awaits us if we have the courage to reach for it and work for it and to fight for it. I realised then that we must push back against the language and actions and offer hope, especially to those that are not in a position to come out or who are not comfortable in themselves. Weeks like this must be championed and celebrated until we reach that dream of equality for all. By working together, Lakela, as a community with our allies, the message of love, equality and acceptance is far stronger than that of hate. Even in the hardest of times, let's never forget that. Aroig Lakela, forward together, Goramila Mahagat. You have to stay here though. There's a small bit of an ambush.
Okay. Fuckers.
So guys, Siobhan is standing down as chair of the interagency group. So there's a small token of the appreciation for all Siobhan's work. So I think we can give her a big round of applause there.
Tilted towards me, Siobhan. Reflect my head. Thank you. All right, folks, looking at me. And one more. Thank you.
Hi folks, my name is Ciara McConnell and I am involved in the social inclusion unit here, which involved a lot of our staff who put tonight together along with the interagency. And I just we wanted to acknowledge Siobhan's massive efforts in promoting the community's rights down through the last decades, and in particular her engagement with the City Council since 2002, and the influential dogfighting that she does is just magnificent, and it's so important to acknowledge it, and it will be missed big time. And one of the reasons we put this particular frame together is it kind of shows the level of work that Siobhan has got us to, because having two rainbow crossings in the middle of our main city street was no mean feat. And I want to acknowledge the pushing and the shoving that Siobhan, and indeed the other members, but this is Siobhan's time, do and did to achieve this. So go with Mila Mahavad, Siobhan.
Well, there's a bit of my own reeling in the ears I didn't expect, but I'm really, really appreciative. So thank you very much, and apologies to for swearing. You know, I don't usually do it. So huge thanks to all my. It's been a privilege. Oh. When I was a young one, just new in Cork, up from the country, I was passing the Key Co-op one day with a guy whom I subsequently went out with, who was a mature student from Kerry's. That was my people then. And as I was passing, as we were passing, I said, I hear there's a great second-hand bookshop in there. And he said, oh, you can't go in there. And I said, why not? And he said, it's a special branch, watch that place. And I suppose that's a long time ago. And he was able to list out everything that happened in the Key Co-op. So one of our guests of honour tonight is someone who's been involved in a range of activism, not just LGBTI activism. He's someone, as John said, a lot of us came behind and owe a huge debt to. He's someone we've fought with, we've gone out with. He's someone who's was hugely influential in the campaign around decriminalisation of homosexuality. And I can still remember him bringing, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 bottles of champagne or Prosecco to Lowford's on the evening the announcement was made. And it just seemed like such a hopeful moment and such a powerful moment. So to someone who was part of creating that moment and a lot more, would you please give a warm welcome to our first guest of honour, Arthur Leahy.
Why don't I get out my speech? Can you hear down in the front here? We were up at the back, we couldn't. Oh, sorry, we were up at the back and we couldn't really hear any. Can you hear? I was just hoping you mightn't, because I could just muffle away. I can't see my notes anyway. When Siobhan asked me to speak, I presumed she wanted kind of my life's history, you know, so I spent most of Sunday kind of writing up about 4 pages. But you'll be glad to hear, I did communicate with her this morning, and she told me what the real purpose was, just to talk about, you know, so I've got a little shorter piece here. Now I can't read it, so, but when I started out, I suppose, in 1963, when I went to England, and I didn't go to England. I went to Dunleer in County, because an uncle of mine in Cork said that I would be that I would be ideally suited as a television presenter. So I went up to a factory in Dunleer in County Loud and spent 2 months sweeping the floor. And decided that probably wasn't going to, my future was not in television. So I hopped to England and spent the next 18, 19 years in England. And it was, I suppose I spent a lot of, but anyway. But when I returned to Ireland in 1981, and I had a joke there now, but it's gone. No, you couldn't read it. Oh, no, well, now I'll get the hang of it. That's I have up here. I knew there was something.
You should stand up.
Oh, that's better. Got applause for that anyway. So I returned in 1980 and got when I was in Drogheda in Dundalk, I went around the factory wearing a badge which I understood to be the gay symbol, and it turned out that it was in fact the feminist badge that I wore for the week. And nobody made any comment on it. So, but I went to England and spent 18 years there and kind of learned, when I came back to Ireland, I had kind of got the hang of the badges. So I had got the right badge by then. But coming back to Ireland then was, in Ireland was a really different place. And it was in 1981 when we had the conference here in Cork. It was really it was a different country. But I remember we stood outside the City Hall here and handed out at a conference, trade union conference, in 81. And like the reception from people going in was like we had 2 heads. You know, there were people who kind of, you know, and there was one lad who actually said a couple of nice words, you know, but that was it. But over the years, you know, through the anti-amendment campaigns, the 2 divorce campaigns, and the decriminalisation, like that has been an enormous path that we've taken in a very short time, that Ireland has changed. I mean, I used to go to UCC to speak at some of their student things, And after a while, I noticed that they used to just kind of drift off, or some of them actually went out of the room. You know, they just didn't believe that Ireland was like that, really. They thought I was making it up, you know, it was some kind of folk character that had been trying to spicing up their day. But I suppose it's some of the things that we have to say about this was the role of the church in Ireland at the time. It had a hugely stranglehold on the country, and like it is much better now. You know, I have quite a friendly relationship with a number of local priests and clergymen, and that's a huge change. I've even a positive relationship with the guards. You know, that will tell you how Ireland has changed. I can't speak for the Navy, I'm afraid. I suppose like we have achieved a huge amount. I've just skipped. You'd be glad to hear I've just skipped a big bit. But we have achieved enormous amount, but there are still real challenges in our own society here in Ireland. I mean, we don't need to go through them. We know them all, and they are significant. You know, that we need to address. And we can do it with a degree of pride in what we've achieved so far. Like we have made enormous changes in Irish society, nearly all to the better, I think. But and if you look around, a few years ago, I was in another country, and they had a very, very bad reputation in relationship to LGBTI issues, and it was kind of frightening that what the world we live in, there has been we think in Ireland that things have changed enormously, but if you look around the world, there are huge oppressive regimes that people like us have to actually live and go through, and that's a huge challenge. There are all sorts of other challenges, I think, that we're facing, you know, apart from the end of the world, which is being spoken about a little bit more now, you know, but there is a huge difference between, like, when I set out and when I look at young people, my young people now, what they're setting out in. There are the issues like of drugs. There are a whole range of issues that I think are real challenges, and they seem to be far bigger than the challenges that I faced when I set out, you know, in my time. So it's all rubbish, really, the rest of it, and there's no point in. But I think it is really important just to state that to realise what we have achieved. You know, sometimes when you look around, you think, oh God, you know, maybe it's not much. But Ireland has changed enormously in the how many years is it? 40, 50 years, 50, you know. So with that's all you're getting.
Thanks so much, Arthur. Can you stay there a minute, will you? Can I call on the Deputy Lord Mayor? So on behalf of the interagency group, Arthur, it's a take it home, you know? We have a post on our Facebook today that says it's the 21st anniversary of the LGBT interagency group itself. It's the 13th LGBT Awareness Week. And if not at all of them, I think Arthur's probably certainly been at most of them. And in the early days, it was a really, really small group. So Arthur's right, lots of things have changed. The rainbow flag, this is the 10th LGBT Awareness Week that the flag has been raised over City Hall, and it's raised at a number of events now throughout the year, and it's made communities and other issues and identities also to be recognised in the city. So thank you, Arthur, on behalf of everyone who's here and everyone who's not, but who's benefited from the work you've done. Thank you. And 30 years, moving forward 30 years, we go from taking a piece of legislation that was hateful from the statute books to hopefully creating a piece of legislation that will make a lot more people's lives easier and feel less threatened, feel less damaged by the world and the society that we live in. So I'd like to welcome Luna Liboni back to Cork, because Luna was with us for our RCN, Rainbow Cities Network, policy conference in January. And I think really impressed all our European delegates and all of us that at the really effective way of talking about hate crime and the impacts of hate crime beyond the crime itself and beyond the person who experienced it. So we're really delighted to have you back. Luna is the policy officer with the Irish Council for Civil Liberties, and she's also the chair of the Coalition Against Hate Crime, which has done such wonderful campaigning on this issue. So would you please give a warm Cork welcome.
Thanks a million. Thanks a million. I hope you can all hear me. Good. I have to start with a little disclaimer, which is the fact that when Siobhan asked me to attend, I didn't know who the other person would have been. So when I saw the name of Arthur, I actually asked to be downgraded to just guest. But they didn't take my suggestion on board, but please do take it. And thanks a million, Arthur, for your keynote. My name, as Siobhan said, is Luna Lariboni, and my pronouns are she, her. What I'm going to focus on today is hate crime, where we are, and we hopefully are going to be in a little while. So just 2 months ago, Angara Shohana published its most recent numbers on reports of hate crime and hate incidents in Ireland. These numbers tell us that there has been almost a 30% increase in reports. Just two numbers I'm going to give you, not too many. There's been a total of 582 hate-related incidents reported in 2022, compared to 448 in 2021. These, taking into account that Angara Shohana itself as an institution, recognize that there are probably many more, because underreporting of hate crime is a huge issue. As Siobhan has said, ICCL, that I represent today, is the chair of the Coalition Against Hate Crime in Ireland, made of 23 civil society organizations that represent communities directly impacted by hate crime. While it is positive that more people are reporting hate crime and hate incidents, these numbers reflect something that communities that members of the Coalition Against Hate Crime work with have heard and have said throughout the years. which is the fact that there is a general perception that hate crime and extreme hate speech are on the rise in the country. This is true also for the LGBTI+ community. And even the official statistics tell us how hate crime impact the community, considering that sexual orientation is the most reported ground on. LGBTI+ groups in the coalition against hate crime have been and are being extremely loud about the impact that hate crime has on the LGBT community. And myself, as well as a member of the community, I read newspapers, I also read the press, like the community press. And it's interesting to note that in the last 12 months, at least once a month, there's been an account of a horrific homophobic attack on GCN that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, LGBT community press. Hate crimes are message crimes. One act can make an entire community feel excluded and unsafe. These crimes affect beyond. They impact entire communities and they weaken the fabric of our society. Everyone can be a victim of hate crime. It's on the basis of the perception of the person that commits a hate crime. And because of its impact, hate crime is everyone's business. So if we see as message crimes, what do the numbers that I mentioned before tell us? That in 2022, 582 times a message has been sent to members of minorities and communities and all of us, which is the message that you don't belong here, you're not welcome here, you're not supposed to be here. As Arthur has stressed, Ireland has come a long way since the decriminalization of homosexuality. Recently, ILGA Europe has published its index on how EU countries are doing with LGBT rights. Ireland has quite a good placement, not the best, but quite a good placement. And if we compare ourselves to the rest of the world, we are seeing as having a set of legislation that is quite progressive. And it might come as a surprise to some of you that actually Ireland has a big legislative gap when it comes to hate crime. We don't have legislation. There's not a single piece of legislation that addresses hate crime. And I must say, as you might be detecting from my accent, I'm not original from Cork, but I'm originally from Italy. And I also have to add the fact that there's also rights that we win slowly in time that we can't take for granted. And I have to say it on the basis of where I personally come from, even if I've been adopted by Ireland, with this beautiful country. I'm sure you've heard about this piece of legislation that has the longest name on earth, which is the Criminal Justice Incitement to Violence or Hatred and Hate Offences Bill 2022, aka the hate crime legislation. It's currently going through the Oireachtas. Next step is the Senate. The law aims at doing two things at the same time: introducing hate crime legislation and reviewing the existing law on extreme hate speech, which has proven to be over the years quite ineffective and very difficult to use. The Coalition Against Hate Crime that I represented has been advocating for this piece of legislation, so the introduction of hate crime legislation, for years. Because this piece of legislation serves multiple purposes. It sends a message to communities, and this time our message needs to be louder than the message of intolerance. It sends a message that the additional harm that these crimes bring with themselves is recognized. It sends a message to society that there is no place for such behavior. And when it comes to criminal law, it creates a tool to identify and address the hate element of crimes in a consistent way. Now, it's 5 p.m. 5:30 p.m. and nobody deserves a legal analysis of the legislation at this time, especially on a Monday. So I will just flag a few principles that are kind of guiding our work as Coalition Against Hate Crime and as ICCL in the work that we're doing to introduce this legislation, which kind of might ring some bells on the conversation that are ongoing that you might be hearing on the news. This piece of legislation needs to reflect the needs and experiences of all the communities that are impacted by hate crime and extremist speech. This means that we need to be careful in recognizing who these groups are and which offenses happen the most. Because the way that communities experience hate crime can vary a lot from a community to the other. Even within the LGBTI plus community, experiences of hate crime can vary a lot. And we're strongly advocating for the definitions in the legislation to be as comprehensive as possible when it comes to recognizing the communities that are impacting. For example, under this legislation, and this is a win for us as a coalition, sexual orientation, gender, including gender expression and gender identity, and sex characteristics are recognized. And we're going to work fiercely to ensure that no one is left behind, despite all the conversation and the noise that is going on. This legislation needs to be proportionate, because when we navigate, let's say, a space of rights, of human rights, we need to take into account how to balance all the different rights. And on this, I represent a civil liberties organization. We're fierce defenders of freedom of expression. It's important that only the extreme forms of hate speech are addressed through criminal law, while all the others need to be addressed through other means. Similarly, the legislation needs to be clear and precise. We need to know, and this has been a little bit of a problem with the previous legislation. We need to know what the legislation is saying. Now, we hope to have this legislation introduced without any other delay in Ireland. But it's important for me to look ahead, okay, to speak to the person that will do the keynote next year. Our work will not be done with this piece of legislation. When tackling hate crime, we kind of need a big toolbox, and the legislation is one key essential tool. This legislation needs to start to operate as soon as possible, without any delay. It needs to be implemented and complemented with measures to address the roots of hate. And that's why ICCL, together with all the members of the Coalition Against Hate Crime, are currently advocating. We're trying to get a commitment by the government to have a wider approach, a more comprehensive one, to combat hate crime and hate speech. This means practically that all communities, criminal justice actors, including Agada Shahana, educators, victim support providers, representatives of different departments, and public servants, and everyone potentially represented in this room sits down and comes up with a plan, with a strategy. We need a clear plan of action when it comes to training, awareness raising, strengthen victim support, monitoring, recording, and I could go on and on and on. And let me say, these actions need to be clear, then we need to have a clear time frame, and we need the money. Investment, human investment and financial investment. Now, we need this legislation to be introduced without any delay, and we need this action plan, we're calling for an action plan, to make sure that everyone in Ireland is safe, proud, and welcome for who they are, including all the members of the LGBTI plus community. And we will keep working in the spirit that one hate crime is one hate crime too much. and that the best way to combat hate crime is ultimately preventing hate crime from happening. Thanks, Maria.
Just going to ask Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor.
Profoundly embarrassed with the picture. I was amazing.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Luna. On behalf of us all. Okay, we're nearly there. You'll be glad to know. We are first though going to be treated to another number from Choral Confusion, because it's always lovely to hear a song in the midst of speeches, isn't it? I'm just going to draw your attention to the programme that you'll have in your pack, and just to say that there's a week-long series of events. The idea of the Awareness Week is that the city, its public agencies and its communities come together to challenge homophobia, lesbophobia, transphobia and biphobia, because that's not the job of LGBTI NGOs or individuals. Even they, as we've heard from Arthur and Luna, they do a lot of the heavy lifting. That's all of our jobs, because hate hurts us all, which is another Luna quote. So tomorrow morning we've had our 10th flag raising for Awareness Week here this evening, and tomorrow morning we'll continue that out into the community in spaces that have never been part of the flag raising in the city, which is great. So we have all the armed services will raise flags, so Collins's Barracks and the Gardaí and the Navy in Hull. We'll be in St Finbarr's GA early in the morning, and then at the home of Cork GA, the Páirc Uí Chaoimh, which is a place I've had occasion once or twice to visit, and it's been enjoyable mostly. And we have St Mary's Health Campus, and I'm really thrilled that this year, and it will link into our seminar on Wednesday, we will have 2 elder care facilities: Westgate in the west of the city in Ballincollig, and St Luke's in Blackrock Mahon. We have a sexual health awareness session online on Tuesday, and Aaron, you'll find the details online, but it's Aaron at sexualhealthcentre.com. It's the one that has bedeviled us all week. In the afternoon, and I heard the library being given a great shout out by Deputy Lord Mayor John Marr. We have a session on combating hate crime and what all of us, public services and community organisations, can do to do that. And we'll be joined by Adam Long from NXF, from Siobhan O'Donoghue, the Hope and Courage Collective, and also by our city librarian, David O'Brien. On Wednesday morning, we have a Night of Hope Day seminar on conversations on LGBTI, elder healthcare and housing, which is really timely because, 30 years after decriminalisation, we have the first out cohort of older LGBT people who, I suppose, really need our public service to work for the community. Culture night, so a little bit of fun in the Triskel on Wednesday night, and a screening of Blue Jean and the Irish Short Jungle. Thursday we'll be heading to UCC, to the UCC LGBT Staff Network, where there's a presentation on the oral history of lesbian refugee and asylum seekers that Jane Drays has worked with. Friday morning, Cork City PPN will work with the community on their contributions to a wellbeing statement, and it's back to fun again on Saturday for the Rainbow Picnic, and it's at the park, PA for the IRC this year, down in the marina, rather than the People's Park or Bishop Lucy Park, whichever you call it, which is being redeveloped. And a Night of Hobbit Day service to end the week in St Anne's in Shandon. And our thanks to St Anne's, to Reverend Megan Marr, and to John Buttermer, who I think is delivering that address. And there's a range of events in the county and in Cork City Library all week. So look up the programme, be part of it, find a place for yourself, and thanks for everyone who contributed and organised events. And the last bit, I'll even hang on to it, Kieran. The last bit I'm going to do is thank all of my colleagues on the LGBTI interagency group. You'll find them on the back of the programme, so that's great. Hopefully I won't miss anyone. Cork City Council, Kieran O'Connell, Rebecca Lockery and Sandy McGorty. HSE, Cork Kerry Community Healthcare, Kevin Mooney. Garda Síochána, Marie O'Neill and Garda Lorraine O'Donovan. Department of Social Protection, Tom Cronin. Cork Education and Training Board, Mary Ryder. Cork City Library, Thomas Talbot. Cork City Partnership, Margot Hayes. Sexual Health Centre, Erin O'Sullivan. The Gay Project, Ailsa Spindler. Link, advocating for lesbian and bisexual women, but about to be rebranded, relaunched, so watch that space. Kate Moynihan, Seska Balafantok CDP, that's me. Defence Forces, we have Sinead Toomey representing the Navy, Jean Fitzgerald representing the Army, and Keith Green also representing the Army. And Mercy University Hospital South and the South West Hospital Group, Margaret McKernan, and finally the Gender Rebels, Hayley Black. So that's the committee that puts together this week every year, and that works really hard on the in-between things like our membership of the Rainbow Cities Network. So would you give everyone on that committee a warm round of applause? And to that committee, you keep secrets very well. So that, and thank you. I really do appreciate it, and it's a great committee to work on, and I've been proud of it. So, before we finish, we'll have one gorgeous number from Choral Confusion. We have Hannah's Catering doing the honours at the other end of the hall, and it'll be great to get there. Can I thank all the staff here in Cork City Council who always turn out in force and support us. And John is somewhere around there, and so huge appreciation to John and his team. Thank Anthony, who has helped us go online for people who couldn't make it. There was one more, what was it? To thank Jim, who helps us beam the message across the city in various social media. You heard all the names of the interagency groups. All of us depend hugely on the places we come from to support the work of the interagency group, because it's all of our jobs, but it's not any of our jobs. And so on Cork Volunteering Week, the interagency group is part of the volunteering that people do with the support of their of the spaces and the places and the organisations that they come from. And I have to particularly thank mine, Balfantok CDP. So, will you take it away, Choral Confusion, with our huge thanks? And don't forget, June the 3rd, you heard it here, get your tickets, because you don't want to be locked out. So much, really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's been here. We really do appreciate your support, turning out, turning up and standing with the LGBT community in Cork City. It is hugely appreciated. Thanks. Sorry, Sean. Forgive me, at least. It hasn't finished. There's been other years when I've been down there and remembered something. Huge thanks to Deputy Lord Mayor John Marr. So appreciated you being here and not only launching the week, but also sharing how important it is to you personally. To all our councillors, we really do appreciate it. I think that really is it this time. Question. Thanks.
Baba yetu yetu liye mbinguni yetu yetu amina. Baba yetu yetu liye jina lako wewe tukuzwe. Baba yetu yetu liye mbinguni yetu yetu amina. Baba yetu yetu liye jina lako wewe tukuzwe. Tukuzwe chakula chetu tunatoa tajiri tumehe nakoda yetu.
folk, sorry, not another speaker, honestly. Just as Cork City Council's campaign, as we're talking about as we're talking about hate crime, we would like people to share our hashtag City Welcomes. So if you get a chance after, come on, photograph and share it on social media, please. Thank you.
And I invite you to share some refreshments and anecdotes and forecast for the weather, whatever yourself, and Audrey and Hannah's Kitchens will look after us very well. Thank you.
Congratulations.